The meeting of the County Council will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carol, the optional prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray for the memory of our veterans. The living need to uphold the legacy of these men and women with respect, reverence, and heartfelt gratitude. They upheld their oath to defend America with bravery, service, and a sacrifice. They wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for any amount, up to and including their lives. This is the price of freedom. Without them, we would be without peace, freedom, and privilege we enjoy as Americans. Free is a word that is spoken a lot, but have you ever really understood the meaning? Not in bondage to another, enjoying liberty and independence. Each of the small flags placed upon their graves represents not only that person's service to the military, but also their service to each and every one of us. We owe our freedom, our happiness, our lives in gratitude. We pray to God that as their spirits pass into His hands, that He pass on our gratitude to them. Remember, only two defining forces have ever offered to die for you: Jesus Christ and the American soldier. One died for your soul, the other died for your freedom. We ask this in God's name and continue to bless America. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mrs. Fatica?
Here.
Dr. Faust?
Here.
Mr. Horton?
Here.
Mrs. Lowell?
Here.
Mr. Rastetter?
Here.
Chairman Lyon?
Here. The hearing of the public, those of you that called in will receive 5 minutes. Those of you that wish to speak after that will receive 3 minutes. First one up is David Moore.
Good evening, members of Erie County Council. My name is David Moore, and I represent 27,000 people who are followers and supporters of the Pennsylvania Equality Project. We are an organization dedicated to fighting for full equality and fairness under the law for the LGBTQ community of Pennsylvania. I addressed County Council 1 year ago about the need to implement a ban on conversion therapy in Erie County. Many transformative events have happened in the past year that offer hope that a statewide ban could happen in the next 2 to 4 years. Children living in Erie County cannot wait that long for this ban. According to the UCLA School of Law Williams Institute, approximately 20,000 youth between the ages of 13 and 17 will undergo attempts at conversion therapy from licensed healthcare professionals before they reach the age of 18 in the 40 states that currently allow conversion therapy. An additional 57,000 youth will undergo conversion therapy attempts in all 50 states at the hands of religious or spiritual advisors. Nothing under Pennsylvania law prevents that from happening right here in Erie County. Throughout U.S. history from 1890 to the present, numerous conversion therapy techniques have been used by healthcare professionals seeking to change a person's identity. According to the National Center for Lesbian Rights, methods have included aversion treatments such as inducing nausea, vomiting, paralysis, providing electric shock, and having the individual snap an elastic wristband whenever the individual had same-sex erotic thoughts. More modern efforts at conversion therapy revolve around talk therapy for attempting to change one's sexual or gender identity. The harmful effects of attempting to change one's sexual or gender identity are numerous. According to research conducted at San Francisco State University, young people who are LGBTQ who live in non-supportive environments and undergo conversion therapy are 8 times more likely to commit suicide, 6 times more likely to report high levels of depression, and 3 times more likely to turn to illegal drugs. According to Governor Wolf, Pennsylvania already faces an opioid epidemic. We need not make matters worse, even by 1 child, by allowing conversion therapy to continue. Numerous professional organizations have taken a stand against conversion therapy, including the American Medical Association, which states, Our AMA opposes the use of reparative or conversion therapy that is based upon the assumption that homosexuality per se is a mental disorder, or based on the a priori assumption that the patient should change his or her homosexual orientation. On Monday, the World Health Organization removed gender dysphoria from its list of mental disorders. Neither sexual nor gender identities which differ from mainstream society meet the criteria of mental illness and do not require treatment. On December 20th, 2016, the City of Pittsburgh passed an ordinance which makes illegal the practice of conducting conversion therapy within the City of Pittsburgh by any healthcare professional who is paid for his or her services. The City of Philadelphia followed suit on July 11th, 2017 with a similar ordinance. The cities of Allentown, Reading, State College, and Doylestown boroughs subsequently passed similar ordinances, and I might add the City of Erie is set to have a second reading on conversion therapy ban set for June 5th at its regularly scheduled meeting. Although the Commonwealth has no ban on conversion therapy statewide, I am optimistic based on two decisions from U.S. appellate courts. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals said conversion therapy does not constitute speech, but it does have full First Amendment protection. It doesn't have full First Amendment protection because it regulates licensed professionals speaking in the practice of their profession. The appeals court used intermediate scrutiny, the same level of scrutiny given to commercial speech. The case involved is King v. Christie. In a case upholding a similar law in California, the San Francisco-based 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said the ban regulates conduct, though it may have at least an incidental effect on speech. That particular case was Pickup v. Brown. The United States Supreme Court has denied certiorari in both cases. In passing an ordinance to ban conversion therapy by state licensed practitioners, the County Council would be affirming the value and dignity of LGBTQ youth within Erie County and would not fear legal challenges based on the cases already rejected by the United States Supreme Court. And with that, I yield my time.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Michael Potter.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? I'm a little new at this.
Mr. Potter, just give us your name and address or...
Michael Potter, Erie, Pennsylvania, 5027 Hillsdale Avenue.
Thank you.
I stand in front of you guys today in addressing an issue that I believe can change not only today's youth, but give them something to be proud of. On 38th and Style, there's 2 baseball fields that people drive by over the tens of thousands every single day. It's a complete eyesore. The fields are overgrown, they're not taken care of, there's parts of fence missing, there's nothing for the children. I witnessed and watched a tournament in Harbor Creek this weekend where the kids had far better facilities, their fields are nice, the kids are proud of them. That's fine. Today in the city, however, it doesn't matter if it's 21st and Burst, 13th and Lincoln, wherever you drive, wherever you go, these baseball fields that these little kids have, they have nothing to be proud of. They're not taken care of, they're not maintained. It is what it is. Some don't like it because they don't feel that the children or their families are safe in the environments and the neighborhoods that these fields are at. It is what it is. I would like a chance, along with a group of individuals that are in my organization and people, to resurrect maintenance and take care of these fields and give these kids something to be proud of, considering we have all these travel ball teams, whether it's softball for the girls or it's for the boys, to give these kids somewhere that's not a field on the east side so that they can play, be happy. Local businesses can grow from your tournaments when people come in, so on and so forth. Like I said, it's in a prime location on 38th Street, which plenty of people drive by, and I've spoken to several local businesses that would have absolutely no problem contributing or pitching in, getting their advertisement on the outside on the billboards as fences. So they would be more than glad to help in. Like I said earlier, the city, these kids really don't have any facilities besides Prep's Event Center that they can be proud of. Back when I was in youth baseball, we used to have things called parent cleanup, and we used to have boys and girls baseball, which flourished and was huge at the time. Unfortunately, now we don't have anything. I'd like to change that. along with a couple individuals that are in cahoots with me. Like I said, with tournaments, that brings in money, helps local businesses, helps the city. We're in the middle of Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo, so as I feel, there's no reason to not have something for these children. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Darnell Stallworth. I live in Erie. I live at 956 West 26th Street. I've been living in Erie most of my life, since 1989. I came here from Philadelphia. As a youth, I had some trouble with the law. Now, I'm a productive member of society. I work for Keystone Progress. I'm very much involved in my community, very much so. I'm actually a product of community college. And what I read in the newspaper, and I'm glad Mrs. Dahlkemper is here, I would ask her to reconsider withdrawing our application, because a community college, having it here in Erie, is kind of like a culture, and it would be something to keep the youth here in Erie. Right now, we have an alarming rate of youth leaving Erie. I don't know if you guys really are aware of that. And we always hear about how much money it would cost, but investing in your community and investing in the children, there's no price for that. Like, that's something that we want to go in debt for. We want to keep the children and the youth here, and they're leaving. And so that is one way that we can do that. And I would ask that you guys would reconsider, and like Nprc, like they're not, it looks good kind of on paper, but that whole organization, I'm sorry, I don't agree with. Their success rate is really poor. They've been in existence over 2 years, and they have, I'm not sure the exact number, but I know that it's nothing to be proud of. Like, and so, and that's one thing that I want to say. And like I said, I want to redirect you to a community college is a culture. And by considering where we live at, we have so much to sell for it to be in Erie. We have a beautiful town. We get a lot of snow, but other than that, that's it. It's beautiful here. And we can promote this, and we can bring people in here. We can bring youth in here and keep them here. And so, and there's been a lot of work that's been put towards keeping getting the college started. And I would ask that you not jump the gun and look on paper and see whatever Nprc is trying to say. No, we want a community college here where we can actually go, something to be proud of. Like that gentleman was talking about the field, something to be proud of for Erie. That's something that we can be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
My name's Abdullah Washington. I live in Erie, Pennsylvania, 327 and a half East 7th Street. My family's from here. I just came back here just a few years ago. I do believe that we need to reconsider and continue to progress the development of the community college here in Erie. I think it needs to be done the right way, in a way that's open to everyone. And it has to be, I think one of the key features that makes a community college succeed is that it actually reflects the community broadly that it's based in. And Erie not only needs one for the aspect of having accessibility for the people who would best take advantage of it, but it also needs to, one of the biggest issues we have in this city at all levels is the lack of representation of people of color and any different group that you want to think about. And the only way that you can get that to be fully accomplished is to involve everyone in an open process. And unless you can point to me, this is a real opportunity for Erie to start over again in many ways. We can slice it many different ways, but Erie just generally, with our institutions, we do a poor job of representing communities that are underserved. And it's my understanding that Councilman Horton and many other people have been involved, especially from the African-American community, in bringing this to a way that will seriously impact Erie for the better. I went to schools for gifted education early when attending school here in Erie, and I always had doors open for me. And there's a lot of kids that I saw throughout the years who were just as intelligent, who were never offered opportunities because maybe they didn't have the right families and didn't know the right people like Mr. Horton, didn't go to the right churches and things like that. And those are brilliant kids who were given a message that they could not succeed. That maybe, like in the case of Malcolm X, he was told, maybe you don't want to be a lawyer. Maybe, there's a lot of Negro, people who are good at carpentry and things like that. So there are a lot of young men and women who maybe feel like they can be successful in the trades, and we certainly need them to be successful in the trades. But without having an institution with that kind of weight done the right way so that they'll feel welcome, they won't have the opportunity to blossom and become the productive citizens that we are in dire need of in this area. No one can say that we don't need a community college here to maximize the existing population that we have here. It would be a tool to not only refine the people who live here and encourage them to live here, but it would also serve as a way to attract business and many of these other things that go uncounted for in a lot of these discussions. And I just leave it up to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
especially you, Mr. Horton, for your efforts.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Flores, and I live on East 9th, 631 East 9th. I'm born and raised in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm only 26 years old, and most of my life we've been talking about the community college. I did not have the opportunity to attend any of the for-profit colleges that we had in our area because realistically my family could not afford that. So I'm a big advocate for the community college because I see it as an opportunity for the young people to stay here and thrive here. Our younger generation is not invested in, and it's very apparent in our opportunities in this area. I think that if we want to appeal to my generation to stay here and set up roots here, then we need the community college so that we're proud to have something of our own. We have Gannon, Penn State, Edinburgh, and Mercyhurst, and that's great for the families who can afford to send their kids, but let's be realistic. Most of the community of Erie who lives inside the city of Erie cannot afford to send their kids to those schools. And most of the kids who do go to these schools take out thousands of dollars of loans every year just to be able to go to school. And that's not even their food, that's not even their room and board, that's just so that they can afford to attend the classes. This community college, if we actually had one here in Erie, would empower not only my generation, but the other generations that were laid off or they don't have work because their manufacturing jobs went overseas. So this is an opportunity so that we can invest in our community. Right now we're investing a lot in tourism, and that's great for the 4 months that we have, but we need to give our community something that empowers them all year long. And I think that education is the way for that to happen. And the only way that's going to happen for our community is by Erie actually having a community college. So I agree with Mr. Andre Horton on us actually having the community college here. I was sadly not elected to city council this time, but I do plan on running again. And when that does happen, I know that my generation definitely does support the community college. The constituents I talk to, even the older parents, they want their kids to be able to thrive here. And families are being broken up because kids are going elsewhere to be able to sustain family-sustainable jobs. So my grandma always said how great Erie was to raise a family, and sadly, I never seen that in my 26 years of life. So we need to get back there because I believe Erie could be great because we are beautiful. Besides the snow, we are pretty great. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Elspeth Cayley, 1232 West 11th. I guess everybody else pretty much said it as well as I could. I've been here and spoken on this before. I have a young son in the Erie public school system, and I see kind of how our school district is suffering because of the way that the state funds our schools here. And I think there's going to be a lot of kids, continuously graduating without the skills that they need to move on to like a four-year university like Jasmine mentioned. And I think a community college would be a great stepping stone. And from my personal point of view, I think I could have probably saved a whole lot of money in the first 2 years of college if I would have been able to attend a community college and not Gannon, where it was costing outrageous, and even back then it was outrageous, cost, that I'll probably spend most of the rest of my life paying back. So I just want to advocate to please keep it, don't pull our application. We could really use it in the city, like they said, keep our kids here and create jobs and fill those jobs with people who live in Erie and Erie County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Meredith Moore. I live on 98 Terrace Drive, Apartment 9, Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. I am currently a student at General McLean School District in Edinburgh. I am 14 years old, and I'm going to be a freshman next year in high school. My family has gone through a lot, and with that, we have had problems and issues when it came to money. We've almost lost our apartment because of it, and I was almost homeless. And seeing around this area in Erie, there's not many options for schools that are inexpensive. And I would like for us to get a community college because people who are my age, who are maybe a year older, 2 years older, or kids who are younger than me who don't have the opportunities that some other people have who have more money, they can have that opportunity and go to a community college. And I think that it would be good for the city of Erie because there are other suburb areas or smaller towns such as Edinburgh who are around Erie, and they can benefit from that and have greater opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Once, twice, third and last time. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the
So moved,
minutes.
Mr. Chairman.
Second. Moved by Dr. Faust, seconded by Mr. Horton. Any comments on the minutes from the previous meeting? Roll call.
On the minutes, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Next, report of county officials, county executive.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak always. First of all, I want to bring you some good news. We often wonder about, are we really leading the nation? Are we even leading the state in terms of how our departments are functioning? One of my goals when I came in as county executive was to really make Erie County the place where other counties would benchmark against us in the work that we're doing. And so I'm proud to announce that this year, we have again received numerous NACO awards. We have received 7 NACO awards, the most in Pennsylvania, and tied with the 7 that we received last year. Of those 7, we also, for the first time ever, received a Best in Category. And there are only 18 of these given out across the United States to county governments. So I am very proud to say that our Best in Category, very fitting on the day after Memorial Day to tell you this, was from Veterans Initiatives from Veterans Affairs Office. And so we will be on the stage at the NACO meeting coming up in July, and so that's a very, very exciting place. Besides Veterans Affairs, we had achievement awards for the drug and alcohol and the EPIC outreach, human resources through our Ice House program, Public safety through our 9/11 dispatch consolidation. Thank you very much, County Council, for funding all of that. Public safety for our rail safety plan. The County Executive's Office for the Bike Around County Initiative, and the County Executive's Office for the Up for the Job Initiative. Thank you again for providing the funding to get that off and going. Last year, as I said, we received 7 awards, 2017, 4 awards, 2016, 3 awards, and various other departments such as Health, Department of Human Services, the Library, Planning, Library, Health. So anyway, I just want to say to you that your county employees are working very, very diligently for the people of this county and doing really great work, and I think we should all be very proud of that work, and we are recognized nationally for many and many of the initiatives that we have begun here in county government, in Erie County. So I wanted to tell you that great news. So secondly, I do want to address the community college issue, and Meredith, thank you for getting up. I mean, it's great to see a young person like you getting up and speaking, as well as everyone who came up and spoke. And I want to first say that you will not find a more ardent supporter of community college than myself for Erie County. I have been saying this for well over a decade, as community college funding was available through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act when I was in Congress. One of the reasons I voted for that was because I thought we would have a community college during my tenure in Congress and that money would be coming back to Erie County. Unfortunately, we did not get a community college 10 years ago, and here we are 10 years later trying to do the same thing. So let me tell you that I'm an absolute ardent supporter that we need a community college education in this community for our community's vitality and vibrancy going forward. That we cannot compete, not nationally, not statewide, and certainly not globally, without having that type of education for our people who live in Erie County. And I say Erie County because I know there's a lot of people who spoke today from the city and mentioned the city numerous times, but I want here to say that we have people all over Erie County who need this education, not just people who live in the city of Erie. And I always look globally for the whole county when I'm working on initiatives here. And I also want to tell you, Meredith, that I have a little chair in my office, and that chair is there to remind me every day about who I'm working for. And it is your generation, and it is the next generation of people. I also can tell you that the businesses in this community have spoken loud and clear that they cannot find the people they need trained for the jobs of today and the jobs of tomorrow. And a community college has a great opportunity and the great ability to be very flexible and to be very quick in terms of being able to respond to those needs of whatever the business's current employment needs are. So with that being said, we've been working very diligently to bring forward that type of education. And my goal is to get to the place where we have that type of education available for everyone in this community. How we get there sometimes doesn't look the way we think it should. And if you asked everyone in this room for that opinion of how we get there, I bet you every one of us would have a slightly different idea of how we get there. And we have to find the best way forward for our community. So I will say to all of you that I am absolutely 100% committed to making sure that we have that education available for the people of Erie County. Whether you are a young person just graduating out of high school, whether you are a 20, 30-year-old still trying to find your way in a career, or whether you are a 40, 50, or 60-year-old who needs to make or wants to make a career change, that we are going to have that type of education. So we are working diligently to achieve that. Again, it may not look quite the way everyone thought it would look, but I can tell you one thing, it is not cloud-based instruction. It will be workforce instruction with a state-of-the-art workforce center that has the latest and the greatest equipment in it. It will be a bricks and mortar facility where you will find that equipment, where people will be able to go hands-on and get that type of training in Erie County. And we are working diligently to make sure that's so. But with that being said, there was obviously an article in the paper and other news stories over the last week that we are looking to partner with the Northern Pennsylvania Regional College. And we believe that this partnership can be very fruitful. For one thing, one of the things we've heard over and over again from the citizens of Erie County is that they don't want their taxes raised to pay for a community college. But I also believe we need to invest. We need to invest in our people. We need to invest in our community. So I'm trying to find the best way forward where we can minimize the hit to taxpayers of Erie County and yet bring that type of education here. And so we are working to have an agreement that's just the beginning of a long discussion of which council needs to be absolutely in the middle of that discussion of how this goes forward. What kind of facility we purchase, what kind of instruction is in that facility, how the curriculum is decided, how the curriculum moves forward as the changing needs of our workforce happen, because it's always going to be something that's in flux. So with that being said, I know that there is a potential ordinance that is being looked at being brought forward tonight. I want to say just a couple things about that. I received a copy of this after 5 p.m. today. When administration puts forward an ordinance to council, we have to give you at least a week's notice before your vote to read it, to look at it, to have time to digest this. And I would only ask that the same courtesy be extended to the administration on any ordinance. Secondly, as I look at the ordinance, it appears to me that this is something that really should be a resolution, not an ordinance, so I'm just questioning that. Third, I think that putting this ordinance forward has the potential to destroy an opportunity to have community college education here in Erie County. This has the potential to destroy the chance to have a community college education here in Erie County. I'll just name one thing on here that I'd like to mention that is a problem, and I think it just is something that has to be up for discussion. Joe Maloney, who served this council for decades in terms of his counsel to you on all things financial, he had said, because I had originally thought, well, if we have a building, this bricks and mortar building that we're going to have as a state-of-the-art workforce center here, that I thought maybe it should be owned by an authority. Joe has an opinion that it would be better off being owned by county government. Of course, we own lots of buildings, and he had all sorts of reasons, and I don't want to get into the details right here at this meeting, but having this ordinance without having had a chance to look at it hasn't allowed me to reflect back to council some of my concerns. These are decisions that I don't think should be in any kind of ordinance or resolution. I think they should be something that we work out through the process as we go forward, and that's just one of a number of examples of issues that I see with this ordinance right now and things that could potentially really kill an opportunity to really bring community college education here. So with that, I just want to lastly say we are very close to having a memorandum of understanding with the Nprc. Nothing signed, something to bring in front of you, council, because you are obviously integral to this entire effort to bring community college education to Erie County. We are partners in this, and I want us to remain and continue to be partners in this. So as we look at that, I ask you to know that there's a great opportunity for us to address everything that is in this ordinance going forward, but I don't believe this is the time, I don't believe this is the method in which we should do that. So I politely request that this ordinance be tabled for tonight. Let the administration have some time to really look at it and discuss with you before you bring this forward again. And with that, I'll cede my time. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Next on the agenda, Finance Committee, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee met on May 23rd and has brought to the meeting tonight under new business items A, B, and C. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Personnel Committee, Mrs. Fatica.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Personnel Committee met on May 23rd at the conclusion of the Finance meeting and agreed to put under old business item A. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is reports of council members. Mrs. Fatica, you're first.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On May 23rd, I attended the Erie Regional Airport Authority meeting, and Mr. Martin reported that the remodel of the airport restaurant is progressing on schedule. This is providing passenger access to the restaurant side after passing through security. and it is an important improvement to passenger service and comfort. The restaurant is scheduled to reopen August 1st. And I would also like to read a letter that was sent to Director Martin from the Autism Society of Northwestern Pennsylvania. On behalf of the Autism Society of Northwestern Pennsylvania, thank you for supporting our organization through Autism in Flight on May 4th and May 11th, 2019. Travel can be stressful for anyone, but it can be especially challenging for those on the autism spectrum and their family. Autism in Flight offered our families the opportunity to practice real-time simulation of air travel at our local airport. The goal of the program were to help families travel in the future by providing tools that they needed to be successful. The program went beyond our expectations. We were overwhelmed with the leadership Derek Martin offered in order to make Autism in Flight possible at Erie International Airport. The experience has offered many of the families the opportunity to move forward with plans for vacation. Our families were welcomed by a supportive, friendly staff at Erie International Airport, including SkyWest Airlines operating for Delta and Transportation Security Administration. I personally enjoyed watching Delta Airlines staff interact with the children and teens on the spectrum and sharing the details of where their bags were going. To our surprise and delight, our younger travelers, the captain welcomed our families on the plane, posed for photos with the honored guests. The patience of the TSA staff shined with Autism in Flight. Some of us were unfamiliar with airport security process while trying to assist their sons or daughters on the spectrum. The staff explained the process and assisted our families while keeping the experience in a real-time scenario. The Autism Society of Northwest Pennsylvania strives to increase autism awareness and understanding through supportive educational opportunities for our families as well as the local community. Autism in Flight provided an opportunity for the airport, airline, and TSA professionals to interact with their families in a learning environment to increase also their understanding of autism. The mission of the Autism Society of Northwestern Pennsylvania is to improve the quality of life across the lifespan for persons on the autism spectrum and their families through advocacy, education, service, support, and research. Thank you for the important part that they played in making this mission possible. And it's signed by Tish Bartlett, who is the executive director. More of these programs are planned in the future. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Next, Andre.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank everyone that came forward and spoke from the public comment, particularly the young student. I want you to know that you're the reason I'm sitting up here and the reason I fight for the community college in the manner that I do. Mr. Stallworth spoke to brain gain. I have a gaps analysis done by Erie Community Foundation, and I have the community college research that was done, and it clearly says that 78% of women surveyed said they want it. And it says that 82% of respondents between 18 and 34 want it. It said 75% said they believe there's enough potential students in Erie County to support a college. And then it goes on to the gap analysis, and it gave you 11 options. It said before any options could be objectively and uniformly assessed, it was critical to establish evaluation criteria. And while the county executive says that she wants to guarantee that we get a community college education, the one thing that she omitted to say is that we will not get a community college. And you may hear the term duplication of services, but clearly the state legislature delineates that they have two very, very different missions and objectives. So they're not even allowed to refer to themselves as a community college. And I think that that distinction has to be made. But it says during the discussions, they brought up three major goals, how to address the problems that we were having with workforce. And it said that the first one was whatever we did, it had to meet the current and future needs of the region's employers. The second was improving educational attainment levels and household income in the region. And the third is making the region a more attractive place for companies to locate. I could stop there, but I won't. Because A, I don't think that the distant learning model being offered will meet the current and future needs of our region's employers. 2, I don't believe that it will improve the educational attainment levels of household income and household incomes in the region. I'm trying to figure out how's that cloud base going to improve household income. And 3, I can't imagine it making the region a more attractive place for a company to locate over a freestanding community college. And it goes to the 11 points, and to your point, Mr. Stallworth, it says brain gain, the attraction and retention of trained and talented individuals to the region as expressed in the number and educational attainment of individuals ages 25 to 64. And just ask yourself, which model will fit that? Will brain gain attract more talented individuals to the region? Will we attract more by distant learning or by having a freestanding college? The second one, flexible, the ability to adapt to changing demand and changing circumstances to meet the unpredictable needs of the future. And it has to have the alacrity. I suppose they both could do that on some level. The third one, low cost. Short and sweet is the freestanding community college model can deliver that education cheaper than the direct, distant learning model. Portable, 4 is portable. The classes are for credit transferable to other institutions and build towards a portable nationally recognized certificate or associate degree. I suppose they both could do that. Geography. The physical location in public transportation to the location of the education and training must be accessible to many parts of the region. In New York, community colleges typically serve a 50-mile radius. New York, incidentally, is trying to make community college free for all its residents. 6, quality. The education and training meet quality standards set by state or regional accrediting bodies. Well, we both do that. Permanency. The solution is structured to be sustainable over several generations. So when I read in the paper and it says if this doesn't work, we can go back and revisit it in a couple of years, that doesn't really speak to permanency. Branded product, number 8. The solution can be packaged as a recognizable, valuable, easily described product to the region that the region has to offer that inspires residents and non-residents to take advantage of the product. Here's the one that we'll absolutely give away if what I read is true, and that's the economic development tool, which is, there's 2 sides to the CD. There's the A side to the selection and the B side. And the A side is, of course, we want to shorten that educational gap and bring us closer to the national standards and even the standards throughout the state, which we fall woefully short. But the economic development tool, the solution has successfully been leveraged in other communities to attract and grow businesses. So we're looking for a solution that's already been leveraged. And I'm not sure us being an experiment speaks to that successful part, successful communities. And item 10, Cost to the community. The solution optimizes the community's financial contribution through state matching funds and/or directly affects the greatest possible number of individuals. And that's where we're talking. Nothing wrong with, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the Erie Rural Regional Model. In fact, when we formed Empower Erie, we always envisioned working with them hand in hand through a series of letters of articulation and MOUs. But we thought we'd do that after we established ourselves. Item 11. And let me speak to the greatest possible number of helping individuals. That I think to your point, I think in 2 years they have 78 or 96 people spread across 9 counties, and the permanency is them being a line item in the budget. If whoever controls the House, and at this time seems to be the issue, a Republican-controlled House and Senate seems to be an issue that doesn't want us to fight for what we know to be right and for what we know this community deserves. We know that that model will not do anything for the scale of the problem that exists here in Erie. And we also know that the only thing that's changed since any of these reports have came out is that people of color are doing bad, people are leaving the cities, our best and brightest are leaving the city, the people have gotten poorer, and we can rant and rave about the 4 or 5 major institutions and paid for education schools that we have here, but in order for us to be here, I can tell you that they fell woefully short. Alignment with state requirements is number 11, to qualify for state post-secondary matching funds. I'm coming to the end. The solution meets the criteria outlined in Pennsylvania statute and rule for state funding as a community college. Here we are, our application is sitting there. We've met every litmus test. Why wouldn't we let our application go forward? And so the red herring is, if we don't do this now, I'm afraid we won't get a community college. Well, a rural region, even if you adopt that, you still won't have a community college because that's not what it is, and their objective is different. And also, it's the red herring because those 8 or 9 counties combined don't have the number of residents that we have, and they need our 280,000 residents for their success. So don't buy into that either. We leveled it down to this thing, the gap analysis went through 7, 8 options. It narrowed it down to 3. You can go on the Erie Community Foundation and find it, and you'll find that it's settled. It said, the final recommendation of this committee is to create a Northwest PA Community College as a freestanding institute with the invitation to other counties to co-sponsor with Erie and with the opportunity to have branch campuses. There are no requirements for other counties to participate. If they do not, the tuition rates for their residents would be different. This is about the money, make no mistake about it. It says the next steps. I won't bore you with it, but the final thing it says is this process should begin immediately and move at a deliberate pace. It is no longer an option to do nothing. And finally, I think that resolution, I would request, since the county executive is here and she speaks so passionately about being an ardent supporter, I would like a timeline. We requested from Mr. Lee, the Director of Administration, the timeline from when all the negotiating or the meetings started, because that's of particular interest. We want to see where that lines up as to where our application went in. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Andre. Next one is Scott Rastetter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I almost feel guilty after all that. My report kind of pertains to a lot of these issues. In January of 18, I started my term at County Council. At that time, we had a problem with the grant money being used by grant recipients for entertainment and other things not associated with the intentions of what a grant should be used for. The reason being was that there was no structure or requirements for applications for grants. We needed to know the full information about the organizations applying, their principal administrators, their responsibilities, the intentions for the use of the money, schedule for disbursements, quarterly reports and final reports, et cetera, et cetera. Since then, we seem to have run into the same problem too often. I can't imagine what it was like here before the third largest employer in the county, us, not having a structured pay plan. So why don't we have a description of every job in each job grade with defined duties, and when duties are added, they should be noted in this master plan. We have a record of each employee, their dates of service, with their job duties and performance, I would guess, or don't we? When a job is needed to be filled, specifically the planning director at this time, when a job is needed to be filled, this information should come down right along with any request that comes to the council. There is always this lack of information, which seems like a lack of cooperation and can be interpreted as suspicious. One example being not letting council members into the storage facilities for inspections. It nurtures an environment of mistrust. I have a lot of questions about this raise for the planning director. We can't always compete with other cities as far as a salary, but we do have lower cost of living and a lot of other amenities conducive to living a good life. And that is something Erie never takes advantage of when promoting itself. I could ask all the questions, but the most important are how big is the need? I guess the planning director, that's a pretty big need. And how does it fit into the budget? It's almost midway through the year. Can we expect to make the hire and still not raise taxes? That's what really counts. And it will make everyone much more confident in its county government. Last year, it was this council that raised the taxes with a 5-2 vote. Myself and Fiore voting not to raise the taxes. Where was the need to raise the taxes? I don't know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate having an opportunity to speak about this past weekend was the dedication to the World War I memorial that this council and county government stepped forward to support early on and was vital in its success. It was a tremendous ceremony, and County Council had presented a citation, which I had presented on behalf of all of our colleagues here. I will also mention that Councilwoman Kathy Fatica and Councilman Kyle Faust were also in attendance on Saturday, and it was a fitting tribute to the 190 soldiers from Erie County who gave the ultimate sacrifice, who gave their life to protect our freedoms and the democracy that we can all enjoy and sit here and argue over issues that, compared to the sacrifice of our lives, seem somewhat trivial at times, but certainly nonetheless important to us as we move through in the democracy that they fought so hard for. We can be proud of those that gave that sacrifice. Their descendants honor their memory and appreciate what we have done to honor their memory and to enshrine their memory into our community's fabric from this day forward, and to supplement the Veteran Stadium, which of course was the original memorial to World War I veterans. And it was just a very fitting fitting day on the 100th anniversary, the centennial of the end of World War I, and this past Memorial weekend. Certainly, Erie County can be proud of how we stepped forward. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
No, I don't, thank you.
I just want to say a couple words. Both Mrs., if Mr. Anderson didn't mention it, both Mrs. Fatica and I were at that ceremony. Fortunately, we had one of the better spring days for that particular ceremony. But I could just attest, as the grandson of a World War I veteran, it was a very moving ceremony as they read all of the 190 names, and the memories of that particular event really did come flowing back. And my congratulations especially to Mary Jane Koenig, who headed the committee, Mr. Anderson, who faithfully served. They did an outstanding job, and it truly is something Erie County can be proud of. Thank you.
Any other comments from members of council? If not, we'll go on to old business. The first item is it's on the table. It'll have to be taken off the table.
Chairman,
Mrs. Fatica,
I move to take item A, ordinance 26, off the table.
I second.
moved by Mrs. Fatica, seconded by Mr. Anderson. Roll call on taking it off the table, Mr. Clerk.
Mrs. Fatica?
Yes.
Dr. Faust?
No.
Mr. Horton?
No.
Mrs. Lowell?
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Chairman Lyon?
No. Okay, it's open for business. Let's have the,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I'd like to ask for that ordinance to be amended.
Mr. Anderson, let's put the ordinance on the floor first, please.
Okay, thank you. So I would make a motion that we,
Let him read it. I think that's what he's asking.
we'll let you read it first
Yeah.
before I
Yeah,
jump
please.
in.
A second,
Second reading of the ordinance, please, Mr. Clerk.
a second reading of ordinance number 26, 2019. 2019 Planning Fund Budget Revised Expenditures and Upgrade to Director's Position.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Fatica.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
now can I offer an amendment?
Yes, you can.
Thank you, sir. I would like to amend ordinance number 26 to reflect 37 and a half hours and level 20.
Second that amendment.
Moved in second to go from, actually, I think it's being advertised, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I am. It's being advertised under the pay plan, section 18, item A. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, could we ask if they could read ordinance number 26 as it was originally presented in its entirety?
You have it in its entirety?
I do.
Go ahead.
Be it enacted by the County Council of the County of Erie pursuant to Article 2, Sections 3B1, 3B2F of the Erie County Home Rule Charter, that revised expenditures in the 2019 Planning Fund and these changes to the Planning Director position: 1, change from 37 and a half to 40 hours. 2, change from grade 18 to grade 20. 3, salary to increase from 54,873 to 63,856 are hereby approved as outlined on the attached Exhibit A. This ordinance shall be effective immediately upon adoption.
Mr. Anderson, that's not the question I asked. I asked what was it posted at? And I don't believe that's what it's posted at on the, in the county. I believe it's posted under item 18A. Am I correct in that? Shouldn't you know that, Jim? So actually, you're going from item 18A,
To 20?
you're going to item 20C?
No, 20A.
20A.
20A,
Okay.
and dropping it to 37 and a half hours from 40.
Which is a dollar amount.
I think it's being advertised at 37 and a half hours, too. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't know why you would need that particular amendment in there. I'm assumed that if you're going to go from item 18A to item 20A, it's already at 37 and a half hours, and it would stay at 37 and a half hours, although it would be increased in salary up from, can you calculate that, please? I believe it's 51,000 is the item 18A. If I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's 54,000 at that. And it will go to 59, is that correct?
Correct. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Just for clarity, we're amending the second reading, which I believe is asking to go from 37 and a half to 40 hours. So I guess I'm either asking that we I'm asking that we go back to 37 and a half where
Okay.
it sits now. So I believed I needed to amend that
Okay,
because it's asking to go to 40. So I'm asking that it remain at 37 and a half.
you're correct.
Thank you.
And that's been moved and seconded. Any comments from any members of council?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this puts it, this puts this position, it gives it equity to the other department heads for their responsibilities and the management, the areas that they have to manage. So that's the reason that I'm voting yes on this ordinance.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Go ahead.
I would just add that this is a compromise from, what was originally requested. I think we're taking a leap of faith in what we've have been told and discussed, that the duties have increased, the responsibility of supervisory management has increased, and that it's more and more difficult to be competitive with the salary. So I think at this compromise level, there would be support for it, and that's why I'm supporting it at this compromise, not at the upper end that was originally asked for, but at this compromise number, which is the 59,000. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? By the way, Mr. Anderson, I believe they hired, how many was it, Carol? 4 more employees? 5. Okay, just checking. Okay, any other comments? If not, roll call.
On the amendment
That's on the
offered,
amendment, please.
Dr. Faust,
No.
Mr. Horton,
No.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon,
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go
just
ahead.
on the amendment now, or I'm sorry, the ordinance as amended, I'll be voting no. I just don't think the job of the director itself has changed structurally enough to justify the change in grade. Most of the responsibilities are going to be carried out by the people that we've already hired, and that's why I'm not going to support it. Thank you.
Other comments? Go ahead, Carl.
Yes, I too will be not supporting it because I was a member of the original pay scale review committee, and the one thing that the consultant pounded on his chest in the desk about is if we start changing the pay scale grade, that we will be right back to where we were starting, and that it would be problematic. I'd like to see the plan at least in place for 2 or 3 years before we start monkeying around with the salaries. As it is now, the plan was implemented, and within the first 3 months, we were changing salaries, which isn't cool. And so I won't be supporting that this evening either.
Other comments? Roll call, Mr. Clerk.
On the ordinance as amended, Mr. Horton,
No.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
No.
Chairman Lyon.
No. Next, we have new business.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Anderson.
I would like to ask to amend the agenda to include resolution, I'm going to present this as a resolution, and based on our agenda, it looks like would be Resolution 21 of 2019. And I also have, I'm going to ask that it be presented as a resolution rather than an ordinance. And I have one change at the bottom of the last whereas. If I should present that as a change now or present it
As an amendment.
and ask for an amendment.
I would rather you did it as an amendment because it's going to confuse everyone unless, but let's see if we can get it on the agenda.
Okay, and I'm going to ask that this be put on the agenda and then presented as a second reading.
Resolution.
I'm sorry, resolution.
Okay, I believe we should at least read the resolution so everybody's familiar with what we're talking about.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Clerk, please read the resolution and then we'll
Do we not need a second?
have a motion.
Yeah.
You first need to change
The
you
agenda.
first need to amend the agenda, put it, to get it on
Oh,
the
wait a
agenda.
minute, I voted no.
Before we
So you
read it.
need 5 votes for that.
I know that.
So before we read it, we're going to amend it.
We want to amend it before it's read?
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll need a,
Just the agenda, just to get it on the agenda.
wow, that's what I'm trying to do, Tom. Okay, do I have a second to put it on the agenda?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Anderson, seconded by Mr. Rastetter. Any comments?
I will make one comment. This is worthy of debate, so I'm going to vote to put it on their agenda. I will let you know ahead of time, I will not vote to pass it tonight. I think, and I'll explain my reasons later, but to get it on the agenda,
Thank
so
you.
council can, to consider it, that's fine with me, but taking that next step and passing it tonight is not something I can't support. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call to put it on the agenda.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes?
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Mr. Clerk, I would like it read in its entirety. Okay, please.
Ordinance number 34, 2019, continuing the collaborative and
It's now
cooperative.
considered a resolution.
Resolution number 21, I believe it would be.
That's right, it's resolution number 21, Mr. Clerk.
Sorry about that. Resolution number 21, 2019, continuing the collaborative cooperative relationship between the Dahl-Kemper administration, Erie County Council, and Empower Erie. Whereas this resolution is aimed at the continuance of the positive momentum and impact of community college which bring to all residents of Erie County, a case that has been laid out and well documented by a wide array of groups, including Empower Erie, along with providing the greatest advantages to Erie County taxpayers, and seeks to establish a working task force to consist of a member of county council appointed by the council chair, a member of Empower Erie, the county executive, director of administration, finance director, and financial consultant, Joseph Maloney, to work together to continue the fiscally responsible and community-spirited work undertaken thus far, and to hold transparent and publicly spirited dialogue to continue a process of public briefings by experts to County Council. Whereas Empower Erie, with its wide array of community support and the support of Erie County Council as sponsor, has worked tirelessly to establish a local community college to be used for job training, workforce development, apprenticeships, a feeder system to other area post-secondary educational institutions, as well as any other local need that will arise and change from time to time, and seeks to give opportunity to the largest population of Erie County residents, particularly those in financial need. Staying consistent with the Erie County Community College Plan and desiring the efforts to be pursued to seek and establish cooperative partnerships and relationships with partners, including the possibilities of jointly working with the Northern Pennsylvania Regional College, partnerships which would include fair and representative members to any board, and furthermore to seek accreditation by middle states and partner in certificates and pursue standards under Act 11426 PASSHE for student admission, while continuing to accountable benchmarks and meeting local branded marketing identity for partners in Erie County, whereas priorities have been established which include local curriculum control to meet the needs of Erie County, using a direct classroom delivery model when appropriate, and providing remedial courses. Also, to seek avenues of financial support so that taxes would not be placed on Erie County taxpayers by securing financial support, and to ensure sustainability through grants, state legislative action, state RCAP or similar grants, foundation and philanthropic gifts to stay with Erie County, whereas to establish the Erie County campus, whereby the criteria would remain consistent with the strongest recommendation of Empower Erie Facilities Search Committee, which established that no taxable property would be removed from tax rolls, a measure to protect all taxpayers from additional tax base erosion, to create such a campus from existing non-taxable and available property in a condition close to turnkey as possible, owned under an authority of Erie County, and may include satellite buildings as need arises to make opportunities available to the greatest number of residents, and further to remain consistent with Erie County Council Resolution Number 28, 2017, non-nepotism policy. Therefore, be it enacted by the County Council of the County of Erie that this resolution establishing this joint task force consisting of the county administration, Erie County Council, and Empower Erie to seek and explore opportunities to establish positive relations between Erie County and other collaborative partners to align in the goal of attaining and operating a community college in Erie County is hereby approved. This resolution shall be effective immediately upon adoption.
This puts it on the agenda. If you want to wait until we're ready for, this will be a first reading on the agenda.
Question.
It's a resolution.
Certainly. I'm sorry. It's a resolution.
Question for the solicitor. In regards to resolution 27 of June of 17, should it be included in the reading?
I'm going to make an amendment.
Okay, gotcha. Disregard, gotcha.
Mr. Chairman, were you asking we should complete the original agenda first and come to this one? As far as the
okay.
order?
That's fine. This will be under item D, and we'll address it at that particular time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second reading of ordinance 32, in title only, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yep.
quickly, did we move to move to amend the agenda to make those second readings? I don't think we have.
No, not yet.
I
We
move-
have
Sorry, we didn't.
Move to make second readings of ordinances number 32 and 33, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved in by Dr. Faust, seconded by Mrs. Fatica. Any comments? Roll call on making the ordinance 32 and ordinance 33 as second readings.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Now we go on to new business. Second reading of ordinance 32 in title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 32, 2019. Second, 2019 capital fund budget, supplemental appropriation of $5,755 for Emco West Next Gen Radio Project Grant.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Fatica, seconded by Mr. Horton. Comments? Roll call.
On ordinance 32, Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Next will be second reading of ordinance 33 in title only, please.
A second reading of ordinance number 33, 2019, amending ordinance 76, 2010, Erie County Land and Subdivision Ordinance Saldo.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Faust,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Lowell. Comments? Roll call.
On ordinance 33, Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Next is resolution number 20 in title only, please.
Resolution number 20, 2019, urging the Commonwealth and county governance to support the Erie County Department of Health pursuit of a 21st century public health model and infrastructure to align with public health response and responsibilities that come with new and emerging public health risks, issues, and concerns.
So
moved.
Moved by Mr. Anderson,
Second.
by Mrs. Fatica. Comments? Roll call.
On Resolution 20, Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance 34.
It's a
I know you want to amend it.
resolution.
What? I'm sorry, I keep saying ordinance, huh? Yeah, resolution number 21.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr.
I'd like to make an amendment, or a couple amendments. In our fourth whereas, in the,
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
Could we have Mr. Smith read it so somebody could move it in second and put it on the floor officially for debate? And then we can have the amendments as we wish. We haven't
Oh.
done that yet.
he did read
He
it.
read it, but we didn't move and second it to put it on the floor for debate.
Oh, I see. I got you. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Resolution 21, 2019, continuing the collaborative and cooperative relationship between the Dahlkemper administration, Erie County Council, and Empower Erie.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now may I offer,
Any comments?
my amendments?
Yes.
Thank you. In the fourth whereas, fifth line, after the word owned, I'd like to say, add in the words, by Erie County or, so it would read, owned by Erie County or under an authority of Erie County. And then in the last sentence that begins, and further, I would like to strike out the words, remain consistent with Erie County Council Resolution Number 28, 2017, non-nepotism policy and add in to read together in para materia? That's, okay. That's a legal term from our solicitor.
It's Latin for good enough.
Yeah, to include two resolutions, number 28 and 29 of 2017. So let me explain. What we're saying here is that it's working in conjunction with both Resolution 27 and 28 of 2017, which is the resolution that was mentioned already in here, and number 27 was the original resolution of 2017, was the original resolution that County Council at that time passed to support a community college.
Okay, you have an amendment, and do I have a second to that amendment? Seconded by Mr. Horton.
Mr. Chairman, for clarity, that was resolutions 27 and 28?
Of
Yes.
2017, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you to our solicitor for that.
Okay, we had a motion and a second to amend it to that. Any comments? If not, roll call on the amendment.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes?
Chairman Lyon.
Yes. Now, if you want a second reading, you have to put it in as
That's a resolutions. We don't get one.
What's that?
It's a resolutions. We only-
Oh, I'm sorry. That is a resolution. Okay, read it in,
No, I'd just like to make some additional comments, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead.
Just, I think I, like most of us in this room, woke up last Friday and read the newspaper to see that there was a new plan of attack, for lack of a better phrase, regarding the community college and what the Northwest Regional College had put forth. And I wish I certainly, as a member of council, would not have read about that in Friday's paper. I wish I would have been able to find out otherwise, but that's the way it goes. And I don't want to compound the matter by rushing into a resolution that we have in front of us tonight that maybe needs to be fashioned a little bit more. We've talked about cooperation and partnering tonight. I think what we need to do is sit down over the next couple of weeks, and then in June pass what we have talked about soberly over these few weeks in the interim, so we get a resolution that is as accurate and tight and as directive as possible to those listening to what we do here. Anytime we rush, and no offense to those that have brought this resolution forward tonight, but this is rushed. I didn't get it via email till after 5 o'clock. I didn't actually physically see it till after 6 o'clock. It's too important of an issue for this community to figure this all out tonight, and we're not going to figure it all out tonight. It's too important to the community to rush into passing this resolution tonight. Regarding the state budget and its effects on this initiative, it's not going to be solved by us, or it's not going to be harmed by us, I should say, us delaying this until June, where we've had a few weeks to think about what do we really want to do going forward from this point, what is the best course of action. So I would encourage my colleagues what I will do is I'll eventually move to table this after everybody gives their comments if they wish. I would encourage, let's table this till June, really think about what we're doing, and then we can come back and pass something where there's a strong consensus come June between not only us, but include the administration in those discussions as we should be having going all along. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I guess I was just disappointed to hear it in the paper because we all sat in caucus last Thursday and everyone that's here was there. And there was certainly ample opportunity to disclose what was taking place. Mr. Rastetter brought up the issue of mistrust. I understand my colleague's reservation. I appreciate the willingness to partner going forward, but the truth of the matter is, it hasn't been a partnership moving to this point. And so, I don't think we have to do anything drastic till June either. But I don't think this is drastic. I think this is necessary to protect the power of council. It's not even about the issue itself. It's about, first of all, no one should unilaterally be able to make a decision of that magnitude without having it vetted in the publicly, at least vetted by council. I mean, the application that was put forward was vetted and vetted and vetted and vetted and vetted and vetted and voted for. So I have a little bit of problems with that. And so I want to thank my colleague for bringing forth this resolution, because we do want to work collaboratively with the administration, but that hasn't been our history. And so I feel a little bit better if we had something that attached us to the discussion on the issue. I don't think it's been transparent. I know it hasn't. And I don't think it's been fair to this body or to this community. And so I'm in full support of resolution number 21.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
I just had a question. This change in the last line of 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas, that just has us noting that those two resolutions exist and that we're going to follow them.
That they should be read together with this ordinance, or this resolution.
They're a part, both of them are a part.
So they still are part of
Yes.
this particular resolution that we're talking about right now?
Well, there's still the law in Erie County.
Right.
And if there are any, they shouldn't conflict with one another. They should be read together.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman. We've been working in this community for a community college for over 2 decades. And many of the people up here and many people in this room have been a part of those efforts. And we get to the dance and we end up being left on the sideline. And we get to the dance and we end up being left on the sideline. And we're running out of dance cards to be able to play. We have an opportunity to move forward a real effort to get the community college established here in this community. And let's make no mistake about it, it's not going to be perfect. It may not be exactly what we want or what we've wanted, but it's going to get us started. And in saying that, this resolution that I'm putting forward, as Mr. Horton said, formalizes the process that we are showing everyone in this courthouse, everyone in this community, everyone throughout Northwestern Pennsylvania, and everyone across the state, that we are working together and rowing in the same direction, and that we are willing to sit down and collaborate with other groups, because we've been open to that from the beginning. We're talking about getting these groups to sit together and have that discussion of what the real dialogue would be if the details were pounded out. Let's not just throw out suggestions. Let's get to some real concrete facts and reality about what is on the table, what is the potential, what are our needs in this community, what does this community want, What does this community deserve? And how are we going to do it all working together? That's what this resolution is about. That's what the intent of this resolution is about. That's what collaboration and cooperation is about. That's what teamwork is about. I'm proud to serve with the colleagues that sit here with me on council. This community knew how hard this group of people works on behalf of the citizens of Erie County to ensure that, whether we agree or not, at the end of the day, I can tell you every single person up here has done their homework and they've done their research. And we disagree, we kick the tires, and we come to conclusions. And I know that the administration and her staff does that as well. But we don't always do it working together and working collaboratively. This brings us together in a formalized way to do just that. And that's why we offer this tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Still need a roll call vote for the resolution as amended. Mr. Clerk, roll call for the resolution as amended.
Mrs. Lowell,
Yes.
Mr. Rastetter,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fatica,
Yes.
Dr. Faust,
Yes.
Mr. Horton,
Yes.
Chairman Lyon.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, move the table resolution number 21.
Have a motion to table. Do I have a
thought we-
second to that motion? Table failed. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
We got to vote on it as amended, Mr. Chairman.
I thought we
We
voted
did
on
vote
it as
on it
amended.
You were, we were,
That was the last vote.
No.
this is, I see what you mean, never mind.
That was the last vote,
No.
Kyle. I even said,
Oh, no, I'm not arguing, I understand. I know, I made a mistake.
Okay.
But it's,
all right.
shouldn't be too surprising.
Any other comments?
Move to adjourn, Mr.
Stand adjourned.